Welcome to today's webinar, Next Generation Multi-Strand Conveyor Design, sponsored by Glideline, brought to you by Design World Magazine and Glideline. I'm your moderator, Lisa Eitel, engineer editor with Design World Magazine. Before we begin, let me explain how you can participate in today's presentation. First of all, if you have any technical difficulties during today's session, simply ask for help through the Q&A box on your On24 console. Also, get social and share information from today's session. Tweet or post on this webinar and hashtag your shoutouts to join the conversation with hashtag DWWebinar. Direct contact information for me and your presenters is accessible through the Meet Your Speakers window. We also welcome your questions relating to the presentation. Just enter your questions as they occur to you at any time in that Q&A window. Again, we'll answer as many questions as possible during an interactive session that will follow the main presentation, but please feel free to type in your queries at any time. Now we thank our presenters, Kevin Mauger and Jenna Orrock, for being here. Kevin began work for the parent company of Glideline the day after he graduated from college and bought the company 12 years into his career when it was at an all-time low. The company has since grown in volume sixfold and is currently growing more than 20% year over year. Kevin's personal life is spent with his family and getting out of deep sea fishing and supporting the Philadelphia Eagles. Kevin aims to make Glideline the world's most flexible multi-strand conveyor solution with tools for engineers, allowing instantaneous response and operational control with the fastest deliveries in the industry. So now let me hand the mic to Jenna and Kevin. The floor is yours.
Thank you, Lisa. This is Kevin. I'm going to start and then hand it off to Jenna in a second. Always starting with the Eagles thing is always a risk, so I hope there's no NFC East team fans in the audience, but we took that risk because if there's an Eagles fan, then hey, we're there. But listen, this is a great opportunity to introduce our company to you. We're really thankful that you joined. Glideline is a brand owned by the company I've worked at my whole career. It's a 10-year-old brand, and our company, NCC Automated Systems, was actually a customer of our competition today, Glideline's competition. So basically, we developed the product line because we knew there had to be something more. We were a little bit frustrated with what was out there, and we knew we could do it. Jen is going to talk today to you about our three tenets, which are fast, flexible, and easy. Essentially, what we did was we reinvented conveyors using modern-day techniques, everything from fabrication to the software that drives it. And in the process of doing that, we solved problems that people didn't really know they had. So I always liken this to the Uber concept. There was really nothing wrong with taxis until we found out about Uber. And we like to customize our product, which I liken to the Starbucks concept. Why do you pay $6 for a cup of coffee? Because you get it exactly how you want it in a friendly manner. But more than anything else, we have an amazing team. We're genuine, we're caring, and we really just want to solve problems. So today we're going to talk about the why of what we're doing and the how it will drive success for your company. So I'm going to hand it off to Jenna, who will take you through most of the presentation with me chiming in here and there.
Thanks, Kevin. And I just have to say, go Pack Go before I get started. And I see a couple comments for the Browns, so I thought I'd throw that out there. I've worked with Glideline on their marketing over the last 5 years. One of the best things about Glideline is their innovation and their agility. Kevin has done a fantastic job enabling his team and his partners to think outside the box on every project. The Glideline mentality is all about being fast, being flexible, and easy to their customers and each other internally. So now let's dive into what we believe is the future of manufacturing. Manufacturing has been forced to take some big leaps in the recent history to keep up with changing consumer demands, supply chain issues, and COVID-related obstacles, but also customers demanding ultimate flexibility and speed to keep up with both current and future operations. The new world for manufacturers has created both new opportunities and obstacles that we're all learning to navigate. There are 3 topics that I'm going to address today, 3 areas of business that our team has successfully navigated thus far, albeit with many lessons learned along the way. But I'll be diving into flexibility, agility and speed, and customer experience from the point of view of what we've all had to overcome in recent years and how that translates into creating the future of manufacturing for all of us. Some of the bigger industry trends that tie into these topics that we will be covering include labor shortage, high material costs, ergonomics on an assembly line, so creating a safer environment for facility workers and adding automation to an assembly line, unpredictable demand, both high and low, of products and materials, material sourcing and international shipping and transportation obstacles, and finally, the Amazon effect impacting customer expectations and the competitive landscape. We wanted to structure this webinar to show you what we've done to adapt to each of these trends and how we've been able to turn these commonly thought of industry issues into an advantage for us and our customers. On some of the slides, you're going to see QR codes. If a specific topic piques your interest, simply pull up your phone's camera and tap the QR code, and that link will pop up. Click that link to learn more about that specific topic. So with that said, let's dive into the first section, how flexibility is paramount in today's automation market. With the speed at which business runs today and the lessons of 2020 in mind, flexibility as a goal will almost certainly be a much higher priority for manufacturers looking ahead. When it comes to today's automation market, many business owners and managers are being pressured to produce more at a quicker pace and at a lower cost. This can impact everyone within the organization top down. Many companies and people have or are currently experiencing a call for reduced cycle times for longer production runs while improving safety and ergonomics for facility employees, adding more automation to address serious labor shortage issues, reducing product waste to an all-time low, especially since many material costs are at a high, composing adaptive assembly lines that can be adjusted to accommodate updates to production, even accommodating different products. And then finally, maintaining a small, dynamic, and efficient assembly line footprint so the entire facility can be optimized and maximized. We just showed you a handful of customized standard solutions on that last slide, but you can scan this QR code for more if you'd like. The new normal for manufacturing is requiring us to be nimble, to be flexible in every aspect from designing and optimizing production lines to adapting our workspace environment. One pattern throughout these trends is automation, improved automation, better automation, flexible automation. We'll look at how this can trigger a new way of thinking and how to pivot and turn each of these tough obstacles into advantages for yourself and your business to land in the future of manufacturing. But first, here's how we've addressed the demand for supreme automation flexibility at Glideline. We started by looking at our customers. We work primarily with engineers, application engineers, and design engineers. We mainly work with integrators, but also end users who do their own integration. More often than not, we saw this demand for custom solutions. These engineers are being asked to design solutions that can improve cycle time, handle the test of time in terms of products evolving, while fitting everything into an area that is always too small and reducing product waste while being able to rely on less people working the line. They're tasked with dozens of issues. We've made it our mission to be the most flexible conveyor system manufacturer for them, our customers. I'd encourage you to also start looking at what flexibility means through the lens of your customers and what they're struggling with. At Glideline, we developed a modular approach, which naturally became our vision for the future of manufacturing for Glideline. For us, that meant top to bottom, creating an easy, flexible, and economical way to create custom systems, starting with the base system all the way to our devices and accessories being designed. So here are 2 options for the base system, a roller chain solution and a timing belt solution. Both of these base systems can be customized for your exact specifications down to 1 millimeter increments. in both length and width. So if you're conveying a simple pallet, a twin strand belt is a great start. But if you're conveying a large, wide solar panel, we can add more strands and space them out so it supports the load where required. Now, let's say we're working with a larger pallet or a product like a refrigerator door that can be a bit heavier. We would use a roller chain conveyor, which still has all the same flexibility as the timing belt solution, but can handle heavier loads with unheard of motion control. So when you need a strong, controlled motion or flexible acceleration, this solution is outstanding. We found that while the typical roller chain-based conveyor in the industry certainly have their place, the inability to control acceleration was a problem for our customers, especially customers with fragile products looking to reduce waste and damaged products.
And this is Kevin. I think there's two things to unpack there. Of course, there's flexibility as the theme, right? So we have timing belt solutions and roller chain solutions, which in itself, that's not game breaking by any stretch rather. But what I will say, in terms of customizable and how you can configure this, if you just look at the conveyors on the screen, really everything can be put where you want it to put, and we get to the level of how many strands do you want, of course, the length, the width. And then even cross members, you can specify locations of cross members. You can specify exactly where the drive is. You can even specify where we put cuts in the beam to break it for shipment or for integration into your machine. So highly, highly customizable to build it bespoke for how you want it. And number two, as Janet was talking about, the dynamic traction control in the roller chain. Roller chain has free spinning rollers on that. And when you put a static item underneath the free spinning rollers, they tend to accelerate. So you want the low back pressure aspect of the free spinning rollers in some areas, and in other areas you want it to be pushing things to accelerate them forward. A typical example would be at a stop, once you lower the stop, you want it to get out of the way quickly. So we have something called dynamic traction control, which will apply the traction to the bottom side of the roller and spin them to get the product out of the way quicker, as opposed to what might be called the Fred Flintstone effect. It takes a little bit of time to get it going. And that's completely flexible. It can even be modified and changed in the field. All right, back to Jenna.
Thanks, Kevin. Flexibility and agility is the name of the game for application engineers and design engineers. So while the modular base system is a great start, it's not enough. We created this customized standard library of solutions to address the product movement issues in that our customers are facing. After a customer has selected that base system, they tend to start looking at the challenges for their given application in the facility. For example, let's take a direct product handling application of an airplane wing. The engineer is likely looking for a solution that can gently handle the wing to eliminate the risk of damage to the product on the line while optimizing the assembly for a long product. For applications like that, our customers tend to look at adding solutions like the zero contact zoned conveyor. This is a gentler, more reliable, and energy efficient conveyor solution by eliminating 100% of the product contact and back pressure caused by accumulation. With traditional conveyors, there's often back pressure from upstream pallets and motors running continuously, unnecessary wear and tear on the entire system, and continuously running the conveyors, which also wastes energy.
I can chime in on here. If you can go back just one slide, Jenna. Zero contact zone conveyor. This is a principle that's been used in the warehouse industry for a long time. Basically when you're running product and you want to stop it, the easiest way is just to throw a stop up and allow product to kind of bang into each other. And many times that's fine. In a warehouse, when cases accumulate, the case is normally strong enough. And in many cases with pallets and assembly lines, that's fine too. But there are times when it's not. So we borrowed this principle from the roller conveyor industry, where there's basically conveyors are made up of tiny sections with tiny drives, so to speak, and they talk to each other so that when you're accumulating product, they're not ramming into each other. And the time to do that is when you have a product that just isn't going to do well banging into something in front of it and then getting banged into it behind it. So it's a really good product. especially if you're conveying product without a pallet that simply can't go on a pallet for whatever reason you need access, or would get damaged if they're banging into each other. So zero contact zone conveyor is tiny little zones.
Fantastic. Thanks, Kevin.
You're welcome, Jen.
Rotation units, so these are built for precision positioning and smooth motion control. Most use electric programmable stepper or servo-driven rotation, and all our rotation units are built to suit your exact needs.
I'll chime in, totally customizable. You see this one here with an offset. So if you can envision, you see the shaft on the right, the top, it's actually kind of top center underneath that mounting plate. That is powered by a stepper or a servo. You can see the timing belt pulling that there. And if you can envision that conveyor rotating about that shaft, that is what we call our offset rotation unit. So if you were feeding on the bottom side of this and it rotated 180 degrees, it would basically make up the difference on a U, or it would become kind of a U-shaped motion. And you can do these in really any configuration you want. I've got some examples later on.
Awesome. And then finally, the vertical transfer units, VTUs, they're highly customizable to fit your exact specifications. They're offering much more than a typical two-position up-down arrangement. We offer multiple positions, multiple decks, independent axes, and more. So if it involves vertical movement, we got you covered there.
We sell a ton of these. This was game-changing. When we came into this industry, the VTUs were all pneumatic, cantilevered loads. So what we said was, cantilever design is it's still a cantilever design. No matter what you do, you can beef it up, but it's really just not a great mechanical design. So we decided to support conveyors on four corners and then make it electrically driven. So that gives us a lot more load carrying capacity, but it also gives us, since it's electric, motion control. So we can stop our VTUs on a dime wherever we want, as many stops as we want. We can control the motion profile. That's one of the issues with the pneumatics, especially when you go slow, you get that slip stick effect. So you don't really get any of that with this. You get really smooth motion control. And even to a certain degree, you can increase the speed. Not to say that electrics are faster than pneumatics, because they're not, but you can achieve greater speeds with electrics because of the fact that you can control the motion and not bang things around, basically. So we've got a lot of flexibility about this with this product, and it's been a real big hit.
Fantastic. Our team is always standing by, ready to help develop the right solution, but what we find is many of the engineers want to do it on their own. More and more is being demanded of engineers and managers, really all of us, in terms of production. So how can we get more done? How can we be more efficient and adapt to these expectations? Like many engineers looking to find a solution and pricing on their own, we looked inward and decided that it wasn't enough just to create the best solution for a customer's application and facility. We needed to do it quickly. We needed to give our customers the power to design their solution on their own and get instant pricing. We had to provide the quickest lead times so we could meet the insane project challenges that our engineering customers are facing. So before we move on to the topic of speed and agility, let's move back to creating that supreme automation flexibility. Here we put together an example of a basic assembly line. Next, we're going to walk through how we can optimize it to reduce the footprint, to add automation and improve cycle time. By thinking differently, leading with flexibility on an assembly line, we can optimize the space and remove bottlenecks.
Okay, so this is a really basic rendition of a production line. It doesn't really make a ton of sense. It's really just there for illustrative purposes. PV stands for photovoltaic panel or solar panel. And what we've done here is we've showed this a general flow, and then we're going to highlight different zones. So if you look in the top right, so if you go back to the overall, and in the area in the top right, we're going to highlight that. A simple corner. There's a million ways to do this corner. A typical way of transferring this would be basically a pop-up transfer. So the PV would go from left to right and then down the page. And that would be fine in many cases, but if you need to rotate that product along its travel so that it maintains, say, short edge leading or wide edge leading, whatever it is, that's where that rotation unit would come into play. Now you can do a curve. I mean, that's another way of doing it. There's not a lot of curves that you can go very large. So designing a curve around like a typical photovoltaic panel would be pretty challenging. So the rotation unit was actually designed with that in mind, and we would use it with an offset or a straight, just like it's shown here. So basically, we put a conveyor, put it on an axis, and then rotate it. So there's just a simple example of a solution to a problem we didn't necessarily know we had until we got into an application. And that's where a lot of our products come from, is somebody presents us with a unique challenge in our project. So here's another one. So an accumulation zone, shown very generically, we all know the reasons why we might want accumulation in our assembly line. But we make it's called a rack feeder, or it could be just called a buffer, whatever you want to call it. It does the same thing, but conveyors would basically come through, and then we would use our VTU with a servo or a stepper to raise and lower to live zones. Could be left and right of it, or in this case, just left. And basically, we're creating a buffer in-line, on-line. You could go straight through the bottom with the conveyor, or you could even make it offset, whatever you need. We've even made them four-sided in the past. They get pretty large PV panels, but absolutely could be done. So that's what that is showing. And then if we move a little bit further, this is a bypass lift. So this is our vertical transport unit that also has a bypass underneath it. So why would you need that? Maybe for quality samples, you want to check every 5 samples or whatever the number would be. You would have on deck 2, you would have a conveyor that would form the transport, and then deck 1 would lift up X amount of products for inspection, or maybe it's a different assembly process, or it could be a million reasons why you want to do it. But essentially, it's a 2 conveyor deck, dual axis many times, bypass lift. So that's that. Move a little bit further. In today's day and age, we're not seeing AMRs everywhere, but we're starting to see them. And Glideline is a really good conveyor to go on top of AMRs, essentially because it's a relatively lightweight conveyor. We have motors that run on DC, and it's relatively low profile. It's also easy to access and work on from the top, so to speak. So all of those qualities in a conveyor are what the AMR people want, right? All of those, weight and battery life are highly related, and that's kind of a big deal. So we've shown that. And then moving along further, we have this as a tilting deck VTU. It could be just used as a tilting deck, but in certain operations, whether it's a human or a robot, if access or even just visual access to the product is constrained, and a lot of times we run into robot reach issues, right? Every application is a little bit different, but if you somehow want to tilt the product towards an operator, towards a robot, whatever, we can actually create that, and we can even do different angles by doing that with our VTU concept, which is all part of what we'll talk to a little bit later about the 360 concept. So that's that. Here's the zero contact zone conveyor. So this would be for conveying a product that doesn't want to run into each other. And then finally, we have a vertical transport unit showing a dual deck. And again, could be on independent axes going at different rates, different vectors, if you will, at the same time. So an example of that would be maybe sorting product, where you're bringing product up and then sending it to one of 2 locations. And back to Jenna.
Awesome. I'll take a quick pause here to see if anybody has any questions. Okay, Kevin, when is it appropriate to use timing belt solutions versus roller chain solutions?
Yeah, that's a great question. It's product dependent. Sometimes it's environment dependent. Sometimes an environment is just abrasive, or there's maybe a lot of hardware, or maybe you're handling a product that doesn't have a pallet, and you would handle it right on the belt. So you'll just have to look at the application. In general, roller chain is going to be heavier duty. It's going to handle heavier loads, but of course it's steel, and the timing belt is fabric covered, right? So if you're handling, say, an appliance door directly on the belt, you're probably going to want to do that with timing belt, otherwise you'd scratch it. If you have an environment with lots and lots of hardware all over the place, well, you might want to do timing belt there, because you don't want the hardware to get into the roller chain. If you're handling loads with a lot of accumulation and you're on pallets, and you want to reduce the amount of drag on the belt that would happen when you're accumulating a pallet, roller chain's a great solution, because those rollers are free spinning. So it reduces essentially the back pressure, and it's altogether easier on the product.
Awesome. Thank you. All right, I'll dive into that next section then. Our next section is about how speed and agility can set you apart. So agility is all about anticipating and adapting to changes in the market landscape. It means being in the right place at the right time with the right offering of products, tools, materials, and equipment. It means answering the immediate needs of customers and prospects, whether they're manufacturing a drone for your daughter's Christmas present or producing the COVID-19 vaccine. A huge part of being agile has to do with our global supply chain. The last few years, we've seen disruptions causing unpredictable demand, both high and low, of products and materials, testing the reliability of our strategic partnerships, leading many to explore new partnerships, ensuring we're working with the right suppliers and reliable manufacturers that can deliver on time. Next, material sourcing. This is a layered issue. Right now, sourcing raw materials is a challenge for manufacturers who are getting their materials offshore, because the shipping and transportation industry is experiencing major delays. So at the moment, there's an advantage for those manufacturers with quality USA-based sourcing methods. But the always true fact about sourcing, regardless of our economic environment, is that it requires a balance between the quality of the raw materials and the affordability, making reliable, consistent suppliers a competitive advantage in manufacturing. And then finally, the Amazon effect. The digital landscape we live in has changed shopping patterns and customer expectations in the competitive landscape, because it's opened the industry's reach to other businesses and consumers, and its access to buy and sell. Consumers now expect quick delivery without compromising on quality or price, and I'm here for it. So all of these disruptions can be seen as a threat or an opportunity. At Glideline, we knew our flexibility allowed us to be nimble, but to be agile and fast, we knew we had to be able to predict the unexpected, so our customers would be prepared to lean on us always, especially in times of crisis. We designed each solution using in-stock parts and materials sourced in the USA, which ensures reliability to our customers. We buy mass volumes and then configure to order. We're also vertically integrated, which enables streamlined operations by taking ownership over more of the production process. This allows us to provide the best lead times in the industry, which also helps our customers who are facing shifting product demand challenges and the ever-increasing rush orders and rush projects. So here are a few questions to touch base on to see where you and your organization stand with some of these trends. All of these questions come back to being customer-centric, providing fast, reliable, flexible solutions so our industry as a whole can continue to, as it always has, be the foundation of innovation and opportunity here in the USA. In the last section, we're going to cover how to use the digital world to create an easier customer experience, The Amazon effect has created a desire, really it's become an expectation for us all to have highly customized products and solutions with instant pricing information, rapid response and support, and quick shipment. As manufacturers, this trend certainly impacts us and how we sell. But before we cover this essential topic in the last section of the webinar on easy customer experience, I'll see if there's any other questions on speed and agility or anything else so far.
Jenna, we have a few questions. What should we ask here? There is a question regarding direct product handling versus pallet handling. What is the meaning of that?
Yeah, that's kind of it's a term we invented, direct product handling. 80 or 90% of the applications that we get, we're handling a pallet in an assembly operation. So by a pallet, I mean a fixture. We provide pallets. A customer will put a fixture on top of that, or we'll even help them by pre-drilling holes and tapping and adding slots and such for customers to their spec. But sometimes there are products that aren't suitable for a pallet for whatever reason. It could be you need access to the bottom of it. It could be it's just so large, the pallets would get enormous. So there are a lot of applications where we're handling a product directly on the conveyor. So that's what we mean by direct product handling versus pallet handling.
Awesome. Thank you, Kevin. All right. So this last section is creating an easy customer experience. So over the last 10 years or so, many manufacturers have slowly shifted their sales process and customer service experience from complete human-to-human interaction and communication, where it was simple to control your messaging, to now a digital landscape, which gives us far more reach and sales opportunity, but it also puts potential customers in the driver's seat. They have the ability to educate themselves on their own versus being educated by a salesperson on what they want to communicate. Some of the digital opportunities many manufacturers have taken advantage of include foundational assets like a website, CRM, which is the customer relationship management tool, LinkedIn and YouTube channels or other social media platforms, and instant chatbots. However, the pandemic caused a seemingly overnight global shift of working remote and eliminating in-person opportunities altogether. It was a trend many manufacturers were inching towards, but then the last 2 years has completely put the manufacturing industry into the next era of selling products and services by creating an easy digital customer experience. From the first time a lead interacts with our business to designing their conveyor solution through delivery. So the matter at hand is, how can we create a fast, flexible, and easy experience that's completely digital? Well, we thought about customer service from the point of view of engaging with qualified potential customers who have a project that we can help with, but we haven't yet won their business. 95% of manufacturing leaders from this 2021 report agreed that digital transformation in manufacturing is essential to the company's future success, and we agree. Again, we felt this shift even before the pandemic, but the pandemic certainly expedited this trend for us and other manufacturers to push harder towards creating a better digital experience throughout the sales process. So to help these high target opportunities who want to engage with us through their desktop and find a solution or the start of their solution, we wanted to give them a tool to design and develop their conveyor solution on their own as easily and quickly as possible to generate instant pricing with the project parameters that they determine. So we created Impact to accomplish this. But first, I'd like to preface this with a few universal truths about engineers who are our target audience. Engineers are very, very, very precise people. They are perfectionists whose jobs depend upon attention to the smallest detail, which is certainly an understatement. Engineers take tremendous pride in their work. The quality of their designs, their precision in getting things right is what drives their determination. And finally, engineers love SolidWorks. It's one of the most powerful CAD modeling tools on the planet with infinite flexibility and power. They enjoy setting up models the right way with a clean structure using the best modeling techniques. One topic of particular interest for this group of engineers was configuring, downloading, and modifying vendor models from online sources. This is what drove us to develop a 3D SolidWorks in-context conveyor configurator, which is Impact. So like I mentioned, it's an in-context Excel and SolidWorks configuration tool that eliminates the need to repetitively download CAD models, preventing the all-too-common hassle of reconfiguring, re-downloading, reinserting, and repairing after every change, which just blows up your models. So you do it once, and it lives and breathes within your assembly, changing with the needs while giving you updated part numbers and pricing along the way. In addition, Impact's Microsoft Excel Bridge gives you real-time visual feedback with accurate, up-to-date part numbers, pricing, and application review. And did I mention that it is completely free? Impact has millions of standard configurations. It features location customization for drives, legs, and cross members and splice points, all of which add up to almost infinite possibilities for a perfect design configuration for your application. You can instantly evaluate the throughput, weights, lengths, and heights handled by the conveyor you're designing through the Excel-based application review tool. Impact is built for our customers, creative engineers with specific project requirements and goals. Impact allows them to find unique ways to design and develop their solutions and the floor layouts on their own. This graphic compares the design change process with a typical online configuration tool on the left against Impact shown on the right. And as you can see, Impact has far fewer steps. Looping back to my statement that when you have physical products, a service, or a combination of both, you can use the digital world to your advantage at the benefit of your customers. How? It's going to come back to understanding your customers, their needs, and how you can help improve their experience with you online to get what they need.
I'd like to chime in a little bit on that if I can.
Yeah.
Sorry, Jenna. I'd like to kind of compare the Impact configurator against most of the configurators out there on the market. There's a lot of really great configurators on the market, and in most of those examples, you go online, you configure a model, and you get a proposal, you get a price, and then a model sent to you normally. And there's really nothing wrong with that. It's great as long as nothing changes. I think the problem is, and the problem we were trying to solve is when something changes, how do you handle it? So instead of creating a process where you go and you get something, you insert it, and you have kind of static versions of items, we actually create dynamic models that are able to be embedded into your model and talk to a spreadsheet that is attached to it, right? So in doing that, you can change the model, which changes the spreadsheet, you can change the spreadsheet, which changes the model, and it's not just one at a time. You can have a whole bomb of impact-driven glide line equipment, devices, et cetera, in your master assembly. So the beauty of that is as you start up setting up your master assembly and put in your references and constraints and everything else in the process, you only have to do it once, and then you can change your conveyor along the life. And the outline that Jenna was showing there is basically if you have changes, why it's easier and how much time it can save, because in many cases you're going back online, you're reconfiguring masters, you're reconfiguring models, you're blowing things up, you're inserting it, you're organizing your model, and there's just a lot of change. God forbid you're working with a conveyor supplier that doesn't have an online configurator. That means you need to go to them every time and get in their line. And even if they're responding within a day, which is really, really fast, then you're wasting precious time. Whereas if you can learn how to use our system, which is there's a little bit of a learning curve. It's not hard, but it takes, you have to set it up and such. If you can get through that, you're going to save bucket loads of time on the first project. And frankly, every engineer that we've worked with that has installed this on their system and is a SolidWorks user stays with Glideline. It's really powerful.
Awesome. Thank you, Kevin.
Yeah, thank you, Kevin. Yeah, go ahead, Jenna.
Was there any questions, Lisa?
Yeah. I think that you see a few as well. I think the question about zero contact zone conveyor and accumulation is pretty cool. So, Kevin, would it be possible to just get a bit more information on that zero contact zone conveyor and accumulation? Is that just for delicate parts, or are there other applications?
Yeah, it's really any application where you don't want the product ramming into the product in front of it and getting rammed from behind. That's normally when there's delicate parts. Many times we do it when there's no pallet, because pallets are designed to take some abuse, so to speak. And basically we have a motor per zone. It's a little DC motor, comes with its own driver card, and it can talk to the zone upstream and downstream. So actually within long zones, you don't even really need PLCs, because the traffic can be managed by the driver cards themselves, which actually come with a conveyor. You're going to need to tell the whole system when to go into accumulation and when to purge and things like that. So it's not PLC free, but most of the I/O and that logic is going to be handled in the driver cards themselves. I think I answered that.
Excellent. Yeah, that's awesome. Jenna, what should we ask next? I see a couple more questions.
No, I think I think it might relate best in just a couple minutes for this last question. So let me just wrap up here, and then let's go to that 360 question, Lisa.
Perfect. Thank you.
Yeah. So finally, the role of customer. So we believe that the role of customer experience is only going to continue to become more and more important for generating new business and retaining existing customers. And I mentioned in the beginning that manufacturers have been forced to take some big leaps to keep up with changing consumer demands and supply chain issues and COVID-related obstacles, but also because the customers demand ultimate flexibility and speed to keep up with both their current and future operations. This new world for us has created both new opportunities and obstacles that we're all navigating. We hope that by informing you on these three areas of business that our team has successfully navigated thus far, that you'll also be able to learn from our experiences. We wish you guys all luck in 2022, and please don't hesitate to reach out with any questions or concerns. And again, I'll open up the floor for any questions with the remaining time related to flexibility, agility, and speed, customer experience, or anything else that you might be wondering about. All right, Lisa, do we have that question on 360?
Yeah. What does that mean exactly? So, yeah, what is this 360?
Yeah, I didn't do a good job of explaining that. So 360 is it's our term for essentially integrating conveyors with linear motion. So we turn our conveyors into linear motion devices, and then we have really great, easy ways to mount the conveyors to those linear motion devices. And we use it in a variety of ways. You saw it on the VTU. Those are actually conveyors on the four corners. You saw it on the rack feeder. That's also kind of a form of VTU, but we also use it in horizontal bases as well. So you can have a big frame with essentially a sorter or a accumulator or a buffer. It's basically just a really simple way of creating linear motion that tightly integrates with conveyors using all Glideline components. Probably one of the best examples we have of that was a college intern working for a customer up in the Northeast that got a hold of Impact and designed an ASRS system that was about 18 foot tall by like 30 feet long. And we hadn't even considered using it in that manner, let alone considered the software. But they came up with their own software, and they used Glideline to configure this big old ASRS racking system all on their own. They came to us and showed us what they did. We're like, oh my God, will it work? Sure. And it did. It was a really good success project, but that was a college intern.
Wow, that's crazy.
Yeah.
There's another question here, Kevin, on lift transfer units. We were talking about that when we were going through that assembly line example. Can you talk to the how the lift transfer units operate and work and their accuracy?
Yeah. So a lift transfer is basically a little conveyor mounted inside another conveyor, normally perpendicular to it. So it's a way for a product to kind of get into a conveyor from the side. And we build those size to order with as many strands as you want or need. We've done them with timing belts, roller chains, and even with rollers themselves using our base system. So there's a lot of different ways you can figure them. But basically, it's a way to convey a product on a right angle, and it will change the orientation of your product from short edge leading to wide edge leading or vice versa.
Fantastic. Thank you, Kevin.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, audience members, I think this is a wrap. Please rest assured that there will be a follow-up to address any additional questions. Thank you, Jenna and Kevin. Thank you so much to Glideline for being our sponsor on this webinar. Attendees, also please know the on-demand version of this webinar will be emailed to everyone shortly, and it will also be available at designworldonline.com. So sincere thank you to you all for joining us.
Thank you.